I really wanted this dinner to be successful tonight. So a couple weeks ago, I had this great breakfast with Cardinal Dolan, and I asked him if there was anything I could do to really boost attendance. You know this already? He said, why don't you resign as UN ambassador? You didn't tell me you were kidding. Everyone in Washington called me with advice about this speech. They all said the same thing. Do not, under any circumstances, make any jokes about the president. So good night, everybody. Actually, the president called me this morning and gave me some really good advice. He said, if I get stuck for laughs, just brag about his accomplishments. It really killed at the UN, I gotta tell you. There's been some debate. There's been some debate about whether the UN laughed with the president or at the president. I'll take either one tonight. I'm not picky. But I do understand why you invited me. 2 years ago, President Trump was here and he made some waves with his remarks. Apparently, no one here could have predicted that. So last year you went with Paul Ryan, who's a Boy Scout, and that's fine, but a little boring. So this year you wanted to spice things up again, right? I get it. You wanted an Indian woman, but Elizabeth Warren failed her DNA test. Actually, when the president found out that I was Indian American, he asked me if I was from the same tribe as Elizabeth Warren. So I really am super excited to be at the Al Smith dinner. As a member of the Trump cabinet, it is a thrill to be out to dinner without being harassed. Al Smith was a wonderful man. Many people believe the only thing that kept him from being president was his religion. Mitt Romney's saying, tell me about it. But look at this audience. There are so many important people here, like Mayor de Blasio. I'm so getting my car towed tonight. Mayor, remember, as a member of the UN delegation, I do have diplomatic immunity. You're all familiar with diplomatic immunity. It's an exemption from prosecution, or as Mayor de Blasio calls it, a sanctuary city. Oh, look, I got the mayor's drink by mistake. No ice. When I saw the mayor backstage, I told him I was really glad to be here. He said, me too. Mayor, it's not a good idea for a man to ever use that phrase. I am definitely getting my car towed tonight. There are a number of my Washington friends I was hoping would be here, but they just couldn't make it. Cory Booker was here, but he walked out. Jeff Sessions wanted to be here, but he recused himself. Actually, I saw Jeff Sessions earlier today, not in New York. I saw him on LinkedIn looking for a job. Actually, we both were. Hillary Clinton said her invitation never arrived, and she's furious. She's blaming James Comey and the Russians and misogyny and everyone. Jeff Flake was going to be here, but he wanted to give the FBI a week to look into it. President Obama is not here tonight. I saw when recently he said that we're not supposed to use the FBI or the Justice Department to punish political enemies. Comey, McCabe, and Strzok said, now you tell us. Turns out what President Obama meant to say is, that's what we use the IRS for. Senator Chuck Schumer is here tonight, but he almost wasn't. He thought tonight's dinner was at the Waldorf. I told him it was here at the Hilton. He said, Nikki, you must be confused. Chuck, you really don't want to go there. Since this is my first Al Smith dinner, and I know some of you don't know a lot about me, I thought I'd fill you in. People ask me all the time what they should call me. Governor, Ambassador, Nikki. You can call me anything. Just don't call me anonymous. I'm proud to be very close to the Jewish community. In fact, they gave me a nickname. Does anybody know what shiksa means? My father was an esteemed professor, and my mom was a successful lawyer and business owner. I guess you could say I was a beneficiary of off-white privilege. My parents are immigrants from India, legal immigrants. Right now, some people are thinking, do we still have those? Even though they came here legally, I keep them at an undisclosed location, just in case. People always wonder if I felt different or isolated as an Indian American growing up in rural South Carolina. Actually, there was a benefit. It totally prepared me for being a Republican in New York. It wasn't easy growing up Indian in a small southern town. I don't know what was worse, the name calling or being asked to fix everyone's computers. I am still someone who gets very excited about Halloween, but in this toxic environment, even this causes political arguments. Bernie Sanders wants free candy for everyone. Mitch McConnell calls it a typical Democrat giveaway program. The president says it's going to be the best Halloween ever, none like it ever before, huge. Hillary Clinton said she'll go trick-or-treating everywhere except Wisconsin and Michigan. And Michael Cohen asked how much candy he'd get in exchange for immunity. Something else you should know about me. I am someone who 100% supports free press. You'd be amazed how confused people are in countries without a free press. Like Iran, they still think John Kerry is Secretary of State. But the press does sometimes play favorites. A recent study found 91% of the president's news coverage was negative. The other 9% was really negative. On CNN the other day, they claimed that Kim Jong-un is using and controlling President Trump with flattery. Seriously? How would CNN know the president is influenced by flattery? Like they've ever tried it. The president got really mad at Bob Woodward's book. Really mad. The book compared him to a fifth grader. A lot of Democrats seized on that until they realized they got beat by a fifth grader. But I really am grateful to the president for appointing me as ambassador because I learned so much about the UN. I learned that the UN has 193 member nations, 180 which are mad at us on any given day. And the most important thing I learned is that with all of our differences, there is still one thing that unites all 193 countries. At one point, every single one of them was paying Paul Manafort. Like the president, I never hold grudges against the press, but I am still a little bit upset with the New York Times. A few weeks ago, they ran a completely misleading story saying I had purchased $52,000 curtains for the UN ambassador's residence. They had to retract it when it turned out they were actually purchased by the Obama administration. Well, they didn't really retract it. They just changed the headline to read, "Obama creates high-paying jobs in the curtain industry." I do wonder if I get to keep those curtains. These days, it's so hard to tell which stories are real and which ones are fake. I gathered some headlines out there that I just can't quite tell if they're true, so maybe y'all can. We'll start with the first one. President Obama says, okay, you really can't keep your doctor. Or this, Hillary Clinton says, maybe it was my fault, just a little bit. Sarah Huckabee Sanders to host Academy Awards. Morning Joe feels differently about Trump in the afternoon. Or Kirsten Gillibrand takes Brett Kavanaugh to Oktoberfest. There was a fake story that I'm actually thinking about running for president. That is so ridiculous. It is way too early for anyone to be thinking about running for president, unless you're a Senate Democrat during the Kavanaugh hearings. Here's another one. Kanye West sworn in as new UN ambassador. Wait, that could happen. And finally, the biggest headline of all time, Mueller investigation to be over by Christmas. Okay, well, we've had some laughs tonight poking fun at ourselves and at our political rivals. But I really do want to share something I believe is important. I say it a lot when I speak to high school students and to college students. In our toxic political environment, I've heard some people in both parties describe their opponents as enemies or evil. In America, our political opponents are not evil. In South Sudan, where rape is routinely used as a weapon of war, that is evil. In Syria, where the dictator uses chemical weapons to murder innocent children, that is evil. In North Korea, where American student Otto Warmbier was tortured to death, that was evil. In the last 2 years, I've seen true evil. We have some serious political differences here at home, but our opponents are not evil. They're just our opponents. We are blessed with a political system that allows us to resolve our differences peacefully. In the end, we must recognize that we are all Americans, and we are stronger and healthier when we are united. Additionally, gathered here tonight are great leaders of the Catholic Church. I would be remiss if I failed to mention the serious difficulties facing the Church. The issue of sexual assault is not limited to the Catholic family. It deeply touches the American family. The horrendous crimes that have been committed are harmful. There's the devastation of the sexual abuse itself, and there's the fact that the perpetrators of these crimes were people in a position of faith and trust. The Church's place must be with the victims that carry the pain with them. I know the Church leaders recognize its deep responsibility to address this moral failing, and it is taking action. But there's another point I want to emphasize. It would be tragic to allow the abuse scandal to blind anyone to the amazing good works the Catholic Church does every single day. The Al Smith dinner itself has raised millions of dollars for the needy in New York, but it goes way beyond that. In the last 2 years, I've been to some very dark places where human suffering is on a level that's hard for most Americans to imagine. I've been to the border between Colombia and Venezuela, where people walk 3 hours each way in the blazing sun to get the only meal that they will have that day. Who's giving them that meal? The Catholic Church. I've been to refugee camps in Central Africa, where young boys are kidnapped and forced to become child soldiers, and young girls are raped as a matter of routine. Who is in the forefront of changing this culture of corruption and violence? The Catholic Church. Just about everywhere I've been on humanitarian missions, I've come across the church doing incredible work that lifts up millions of desperate people. It is serving God's will. There are real problems, yes, but we must not lose sight of the miracles that are performed every day. Those miracles are the way of the church. And as the proud daughter of Indian immigrants who got the honor of representing my state as governor and our country as United Nations ambassador, I will say those miracles are the way of America. Thank you, and may God bless you.